let's bring it back to using real estate as an investment and not just as a place to live or a vacation home. And let's talk about debt there versus debt on a property that you're going to use. So what happened in the Great Recession was a tragedy for many people. It was a tragedy for homeowners. It was a tragedy for real estate investors. It was a tragedy for real estate developers. And the biggest reason that it was a tragedy for all of those people is because they misused the debt. They misused it. Do you remember, and you may not, Logan, but so in 2007, I remember, this is back when I still took the Kansas City Star. And for those of you that are listening to us in another part of the country, we live in Kansas City. But I still took the Kansas City Star. I remember walking out on a snowy morning. This was the end of 2007. It was December. I walk out into the snowy front yard. I pick up my Kansas City Star. I go in. I've got my cup of coffee. I'm sitting in front of the fireplace. And I open up the business section of the Kansas City Star, and I see this full-page ad from Pulte Homes. And the ad was, you get a free BMW with the purchase of a Pulte home. And I'm gone. I told my wife, I said, the madness has gotten to a point where it's.
But you went and bought it. Did you go buy a home, though, that
No.
day?
I'm like, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen. And in the years leading up to that, you could, on television or radio or wherever, you'd see and hear ads. Hey, if you've got a home, we'll loan you up to 120% of the value of your home. You can use that money to take a vacation, to pay off a vehicle, to do what? And it's like, what in the world? Now, that was just absolutely insane. They had these loans, Logan, that were 5-year balloons at a low interest rate. And people were speculating, let's go take this 5-year balloon loan out. I can pay interest only on that loan for 5 years. And it's into 5 years. Just think about how fast real estate's appreciating in value. I can pay that. I can refinance and I can be in great shape.
Same thing today, though. And you and I spend a ton of time with a lot of clients' kids. And it's, how much home can I afford? And you can look online, the banker is going to tell you, you can afford whatever based off their formula. And, as a CFP, Certified Financial Planner, there's certain thresholds that we look at, but really it's, what are you comfortable with? It's not, hey, I remember when I got pre-qualified for my home, it's, hey, you can spend X, Y, and Z. And it's, I'm never going to buy a house that's that expensive. But if you don't have an education in finance and you really haven't done the research and thought about it, it would be easy to fall in that trap.
It is easy to fall in that trap. And so that's where I was going with that story, Logan, is so let's just say that you were out and you're saying, okay, this is a good deal. I'm going to go out and buy some rental properties, and I'm going to do this investment property, and I'm going to put zero down, and I'm going to do an interest-only loan, and this thing's going to positive cash flow day one because the interest-only loans are so cheap, right? And then in 5 years, think about what this real estate's going to be worth. And so here's the problem. Let's just use an example of somebody putting 10% down on a investment property. So I got a $1 million property. I put $100,000 down. Okay. That property increases in value by 10%. My property's now worth $1.1 million. What's my return on the $100,000 investment? It's double, right? I just made 100% because now I have $200,000 in equity if I sold that home, and all I put in was $100,000. So the greed factor in people as they start looking at that, it's like, oh my God, this is what leverage can do for me. This is what debt can do for me. But the flip side of that is also true. What happens if that piece of real estate that I paid $1 million for and I put $100,000 down decreases in value by 10%? How much of my $100,000 did I lose? 100%. Okay. So now a 10% drop in that real estate value wipes out 100% of my equity. And what happened during the Great Recession was people were levering themselves up so much that that 10% or that 15% drop in value, it wiped out 100% of their equity or even more. And then when they go to try to refinance after the Great Recession, what did they say? You know what you got to do? You got to put some more money down, brother.
Starting your route to retirement.